April 2026, these are the 10 cars, Dad, dealers are desperate to get rid of right now, but no one is buying them. Let's start at number 10. We've got the 2026 Jeep Wrangler two-door. It has a 373 days supply of inventory. Jeep dealers nationwide have 9,243 of these vehicles for sale, yet they've only sold 1,100 of them in the last 45 days. Dad, what does 373 days supply mean? Why is that so important?
Well, the 373 days is how long, based on the current daily sales rate, it would take the Jeep dealers to sell the remaining 9,243 Jeeps that are in stock. So they've got a year's supply of Jeeps sitting on the ground as we speak.
So we're going to run through the 10 slowest selling vehicles. Then we're also going to look at the 10 worst selling vehicles in terms of actual numbers sold in the last 45 days. But let's keep going here with the slowest sellers. At the number 9 spot, Audi, Dad, with the Audi S e-tron GT, 378 days supply for this vehicle. Dealers don't have that many for sale, but they're also not selling that many. Has something to do with the fact that people don't want a $137,000 electric Audi. Then we've got back-to-back Alfa Romeos at the 8 and 7 spot. First, the Stelvio with a 421 days supply, and then the Giulia with a 471 days supply. We'll do the number 6 here as well. The Aston Martin DBX with a 522 days supply. These dealers, Dad, the ones that I just listed there, these are expensive vehicles that they have a lot of inventory that are not selling.
My goodness, can you imagine being an Aston Martin dealer and having to pay the floor plan interest on your $300,000 DBX or whatever it is? I mean, that's just crazy. That gets rather expensive. And you look at some of these vehicles like that Audi S e-tron GT, $137,000 for an electric vehicle. No wonder it's not selling. And well, Alphas just don't sell. Yeah, it's not a surprising list by any stretch of the imagination.
Now let's get into the top 5 slowest sellers. And some of you at this point might be saying, wow, these numbers seem awfully high, especially if you watch these videos month after month after month. Well, Dad, this month we backed out and removed in-transit vehicles. So that's part of the reason why you're seeing the market days supply so high. This no longer takes into consideration in-transit vehicles. So look at this here. For the Ford Mustang Mach-E, the 2026 one, there's a 548 days supply. So just 2026 and no in-transit vehicles. Ford dealers have over 4,100 of these for sale, yet they've only sold 338 in the last 45 days. Now, it's interesting here because Ford has sold many more Mustang Mach-E's in the past 45 days than just those 338. They're the 2025 leftover ones. So this is what's so interesting here. We're removing in-transit vehicles, those that are in transit to the dealership, and we're focusing just on a particular year now. Dad, the Mach-E, the 2026, it is not selling at all, which makes sense because, again, Ford has a ton of leftover 25s.
Yeah, my guess is Ford's pushing the 2025s and the dealers are pushing the 2025s. And so the 2026 Mach-E is, well, an afterthought at this point in time and will continue to be for quite some time, actually.
At the number 4 spot, yet another Audi. This is crazy, man. For back-to-back months here, Audi has been on this list of slowest sellers, and honestly, Volkswagen more broadly. The SQ5, Dad, a 626 days supply. Dealers out there have 1,000 of these for sale on the ground right now. In the last 45 days nationwide, they've only sold 73. Something about an even more expensive Q5 is not moving it fast. Then the top 3. Yes, you read that right. A Toyota. This is the all-electric 2026 CHR. You have an 1,100 days supply because Toyota dealers recently got an influx of these new model year all-electric CHRs. There are 576 for sale right now, yet they've only sold 2022. Again, just 2026 as we're talking about here, which is when we got that all-EV powertrain. Then at the number 2 spot, Volkswagen probably should have stopped making the ID4 in 2025, but they kept making it into 2026. Can't be surprised to see it here with a nearly 1,300 days supply. Volkswagen dealers are desperate. All caps, D-E-S-P-E. I'm not even going to try and spell it. 921 for sale, Dad. The 2026 Volkswagen ID4s. Yet those same dealers have only sold 32 in the last 45 days. And the number 1 slowest selling car in the United States of America right now, new. The 2026 Polestar 4. So again, another electric vehicle. The top 4 and 4 out of the top 5 are all EVs. Almost a 1,500 days supply. Polestar dealers nationwide have 522 for sale, yet they've sold 16 in the last 45 days.
I guess the only hope for these vehicles and some of these brands is that the price of gasoline goes up to $10 a gallon, because maybe at that point people will start looking at those EVs again. But until that time, I don't really see it happening. Do you?
No, I don't. And Dad, we actually restricted because there wasn't enough data. Some of these other new EVs, like Subaru, for example, what is it, the Uncharted and the Trail Seeker or something like that? I
Yes.
mean, there are more EVs that could have made it on this list if we restricted the criteria even lower, but we left them off for the time being. Maybe they'll show up next month. Now, the other list we now have are your least popular vehicles. So those are your slowest selling. These are now your least popular vehicles just in terms of the total amount sold nationwide. Here you've got at the number 10 spot, a Lotus, the Amira, only 40 sold in the last 45 days. At the number 9 spot, the Maserati Grecale with 37 sold in the last 45 days. Again, these are nationwide numbers. Then number 8 spot, the 2026 Bentley Continental GT, only 36 of those $360,000 sedans being sold in the last 45 days. The Mercedes-Benz EQS, the 2026, this is the same story as the Ford Mustang Mach-E. The 25s are still selling, but the 26 not so fast with 34 sold. The ID4, like we just talked about a second ago, only 32 have sold. The Mercedes-Benz Sprinter Crew Van, again, a 2026 model year switchover, only 31 have sold. The DBX with 22 sold. The CHR with 22 sold. The S5 with 19 sold. And then that Polestar again with 16 sold. So these are your worst of the worst, slowest of slowest. These are the vehicles, Dad, that dealers are desperate to get rid of right now.
Yeah, there's not one vehicle on there that the dealer isn't desperate. And when you look at some of the numbers, you look at there's 576 Toyota CHRs. Okay, well, there's what, 1,000, 1,200 Toyota dealers. So there's not even one at every dealership. But then you look at the Lotus. Well, there's only a handful of Lotus dealers around the country, and so they're sitting there and they're going, how did we end up with so many of these? And who's going to come in and bail us out? That's a tough question to answer. So you look at some of the numbers, and it's quite staggering to think that nationwide, through all these various dealers, that they can sell so few of these models. It's scary as can be.
And Dad, we did update the website. So now you can look even more granularly at your state and local level. So I encourage everyone, go to caredge.com/slowest and caredge.com/fastest. And you can break it down by state, and you can break it down by city. You can even break it down by kind of like geographic area beyond that. So please go take a peek, because some of these things start to look a little bit different in different parts of the country as well. But nationwide, Dad, your slowest of slowest, worst of worst, there's a very common theme here. Expensive electric vehicles are not selling, and many automakers probably should have made the decision to cancel some vehicles in 2025 that they carried into 2026. The opportunity for car shoppers, you can go get a big discount from those dealers. And obviously, for example, one of the vehicles that didn't even make the list because we excluded it, that new Subaru, I forget if it's the Uncharted or the Trail Seeker, it came out brand new recently, and they're already offering 0% financing for 75 months. Tells you everything you need to know. You're a deal hunter. Those are the vehicles that you can go find that deal on.
Yes. Deal hunter, hunting for that deal.